Welcome back, Rebel fans. We're here with another episode of the Rebel Talk presented by the Rebel Walk. I'm Cam Wicker, and as always, I'm here with,
Zach Moreth.
and we're going to talk a little Ole Miss sports. I know it's been a little while, so we're going to have to recap a lot of things. First, we're going to jump into men's basketball, then jump into some women's basketball, talk about some football, what's to come there, and then obviously the Rebs are hot on the diamond. We'll talk about that.
Yes, sir.
We're going to jump into some men's basketball. Big news this morning: Chris Beard extended his contract at Ole Miss. A lot of speculation, despite all the Louisville rumors, despite all the Arkansas rumors, the Indiana rumors there. Whatever you heard, it got put to bed this morning. We want to talk about a little bit about the Beard extension, Zach.
Yeah, I was really surprised, to be honest with you, Cam, especially how the team performed towards the end of the season. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but they did give hints of a team that was, that they knew their head coach was probably going to leave at some point. They weren't playing like how they were the month before, really. I mean, the game that comes to mind is the home game against Mississippi State, because at that point on, we were facing Auburn that Saturday. You're considering the tournament anywhere from a 7 through a 10 seed. Fast forward a month later, things just completely derail. So I'm surprised, honestly, that Beard's coming back, but it does seem to be a common trend, especially here at Ole Miss. You see it with Lane Kiffin almost every single year. And I have a good feeling we're going to see it with Chris Beard more and more and more, despite him signing, I believe it was a 4-year deal with Ole Miss and Keith Carter.
Absolutely. And yes, this is something we saw throughout the year, like you explained earlier the year in that Mississippi State game. I think we kind of first saw it in the SEC ACC challenge against NC State, how you can really bring people in. Chris Beard can bring the fans in. And then obviously the Memphis game was packed out then.
Yeah.
Mississippi State was packed out. Auburn was packed out. And obviously attendance started going down a little bit when you started losing games at the end of the season there. But I think last time we left off was we were talking about them playing USC and Bama. Obviously, they dropped those two games to ranked teams there. They beat Mizzou. I believe that was on the road. I think correct. They beat Mizzou on the road, and then after that, they really had to win the rest to even have really a shot at being considered a bubble team. And they dropped a close one to Georgia. And that was a tough one. That was really the one that kind of shut the door on the hopes. And really, the only chance now is making that deep run in the SEC tourney, which you could talk more about that game coming against A&M tomorrow. Is that?
Yeah, as we all know, A&M showed up in Oxford this past weekend, and I think they won by 20 plus, something like that, Cam. So you have to bounce back.
86-60.
There you go. Yeah, you have to bounce back immediately. I think obviously it's going to be a really close game. It's going to come down to the wire, but then you also have to understand you got to face Kentucky if you win that game. And we talked about it earlier. You have to probably win 3 games to even get in the tournament here because those end of the season losses were just brutal. The Georgia game was a dagger in the heart for Ole Miss. And like you said, there has to be some sort of run here, and it has to go far.
Yeah, I think, like you said, I think the really only chance is kind of making that run, maybe at least to like the semis, maybe.
Yep.
And if you can get to the finals, obviously that probably just puts you in right there.
Yeah.
But obviously you're going to have to go through a lot of tough opponents, like you said, if they happen to beat A&M, which didn't look too great against them on their home court last week. And then you got to play Kentucky, which we saw them somewhat close game against Kentucky.
Yeah, honestly.
Against a really tough Kentucky team. And we'll have to see if they can get through A&M, if they can still handle that. It'll obviously be a neutral site in Nashville, kind of in between for Lexington and Oxford. So we'll see if Ole Miss gets to there, what the fans will look like.
Sure.
As far as the players, we'll go back to the Beard thing real quick. Players staying and players leaving possibilities. Only got one right now that I know off the top of my head, and that's Jamin Brakefield, who confirmed he's staying for one more year. I believe Alan Flanagan and Jamarian Sharp are out of eligibility.
Yep.
And I think Musa Cisse, Matt Morrell, Juju Murray, Brandon Murray, they can all come back. Obviously, Matt's an NBA type of player. He's probably going to go second round. If he doesn't, probably goes undrafted, gets picked up by a G League team or plays overseas. I've really been thinking a lot about this Matt Morrell stuff, and I think there's just no reason for him to come back, really. I mean, obviously, if he wants to come back and build something here with Beard and try to take that next step next year, but I think Morrell's kind of as good as he's going to get in college, and he needs to take that next step, and that'll probably be what we see in the coming weeks as the season closes out. But as the rest of them, you got guys like Juju Murray, you got guys like Brandon Murray, Austin Nunez. I'm really interested to see what Rashad Marshall's going to look like. Didn't see much of him down the stretch there. And with the way the portal is nowadays, you just don't know when a player's going to jump in. So we'll have to see what a lot of these players do. But you have to think that Beard's probably going to try to go out and get a traditional point guard in the portal at one point. But yeah, I really think out of this for this year's team going into next year's team, it's going to be really exciting to see who stays and who Beard brings in, especially with John Ball committed to the team.
Yeah, like you said, John Bull. Hopefully, Beer's not leaving, so obviously I think Bull and the commitment sticks. But Eduardo Klafke too, he's a fantastic player. He played in those like the NBA Academy type things throughout high school, so he's very developed. I think he's 6'4", 6'5". He's a guard too, big, lengthy.
I believe he's on campus too. I think he got here early, so yeah.
Yeah, he's been with the team, and then obviously Juju Murray. What happens there? Got a lot of work to do defensively. And on the flip side, Austin Nunez, he was a huge hustle guy, big time motivator, it looked like on the team. They put him in. He played big time defensive minutes. The game that comes to mind is at South Carolina. Seems like he kind of brought that one close. But what can he do offensively to take that next step? I think he has a decent looking shot. You see it in warmups, you see it in the games. It's just getting that confidence and getting that preparation to take those shots and be that guy who's willing to take that last shot and that big shot in the game.
Absolutely. And after that A&M game, final regular season game, Beard kind of hinted towards coming back. Kind of kept saying year two this, year two that.
Yes.
And one thing I really liked from that press conference, and I believe I tweeted it out from the press conference, is he said he wanted more players like Muggs, which is Cam Brent, the 5'5" guy on the basketball team, guys with heart, guys that played for the name on the front of the jersey, not the bat. And I think that's something that you got to look forward to as an Ole Miss fan, because Beard's as long as Beard's around, he's going to keep establishing a culture here. And if he's going to bring in players like Cam Brent more often, then it's going to get really exciting for Ole Miss basketball with all the talent they're allowed to bring in too.
100%. And again, moving forward, you're just looking for progress. We can be disappointed because the team had a lot of potential. Like we talked about a month ago, we thought they were tournament locks, but things didn't pan out the way we wanted it to. But at the end of the day, the team won over 20 games. That's super impressive for a team. If you go back last year, no one knows what the hell's going to go on in the future. People don't even know really who Chris Beard is. So I'm really excited for men's basketball moving forward here.
Before we jump into some women's basketball, obviously SEC tournament starts tonight. Ole Miss won't play till tomorrow. They play A&M at 6 p.m. A&M 7 seed, Ole Miss 10 seed. We'll have to see how that goes on if they'll play Kentucky if they win that one. Jumping into some women's basketball, it was pretty exciting stretch of games down the stretch there for this women's basketball team. They got blown out kind of coming down the stretch there in February against A&M at home, I believe, and it was almost a 20-point victory, I believe, for A&M, and just looked bad. It was a game that Ole Miss was expected to win, and that came out flat, and they just kind of never got on a good shooting pace or anything. Just couldn't score, it seemed like at times. And it seemed like Coach O was really upset after that game. And then they go on just a run. 7-game win streak. They win 2 OT games after that against Florida and State. And this is not a Florida shirt, guys. This is my high school. So just back up.
I was confused
for a Florida shirt.
Yeah.
But, they beat Florida in OT. They beat State in OT. And then a stretch of defensive play here. They beat Georgia at home, held them to 51, scored 73. They beat Mizzou on the road, held them to 45. They beat Kentucky on the road, held them to 45. And then they end the season at Arkansas and held them to 43. And they were just kind of just being a defensive menaces on the court. It's what really just Coach Joe kind of harps on with this team as they keep moving forward. And then obviously they beat Florida in the SEC tournament in the first round right there after they get the bye. And then tough game. One I thought they could have won, but obviously tough game against LSU, and a lot of things happened in that game.
Yeah, that game was super frustrating towards the end because it felt like Ole Miss was right there. They get a huge defensive stop, and then they couldn't make much out of much offense really towards the end of the game there. Felt like things were stuck. But again, it's a clean slate. That's what the tournament's for. You learn a little bit. You play some competitive teams, and you play under some pressure, which I think is fantastic. You move into March. We got selection Sunday for men's and women's this Sunday. We talked about it. I think we're probably going to be somewhere between 6, 7, or 8 seed. Mm-hmm. And you take that and you be an underdog, just like last year. I don't think there's any reason, Cam, why this team cannot be in the Sweet 16 again.
Absolutely. And obviously, I think right now, Charlie Cream has them at a 7 seed. They kind of been sitting at that 7 spot for a little while, ever since they moved up from an 8 early in the season. And that's kind of, I mean, I kind of like that. If you're an Ole Miss fan, you kind of got to like that. You don't have to play a 1 seed in the second round. Obviously, you'll play a 2 seed. I believe they're in the UCLA regional, predicted to be in that. They play Michigan first round, play UCLA second round, which would be the 2 seed. But, I mean, obviously, you got to be happy about avoiding that 1 seed. You
Yes,
don't have to play that South Carolina tier team, that Stanford tier team like you played a year ago. Even though you showed that you can beat that team, it's just better on your players, better on, I guess, your legs, really not playing in that tough of a game and having to play against that tough of an opponent for sure.
100%. And this is a little off topic of Ole Miss, but that fight between South Carolina and LSU was
That was why LSU is a gritty team. I'll give them that. That's I think Angel Reese just became too much down the stretch for Ole Miss in that game against Ole Miss. They're just a gritty team. Flau'jae Johnson, she's a gritty player. Haley Van Lith, gritty player. Even last year, Poa, sad to see her go down, but she was a gritty player. She got in front of Madison Scott. Scary injury right there, but obviously she's I think was just a really bad concussion. I believe she's okay now, which is good to hear. I want to talk a little bit about women's basketball before we move into football. Going on a little rant here about women's basketball. If you're an Ole Miss fan and you're not watching women's basketball, you're missing out. You're missing out. If you haven't watched Team 49 play this year, you have missed out. This team is inspiring. This team, I mean, beginning of the season, they were 12th ranked in the country, I believe, and everyone kind of didn't really show up. The fans didn't show up early in the season, even though they were a ranked team. And KK Deans obviously went down, and Coach O had to fix some things. And then this team goes on a run, finishes with 12 SEC wins, best in Ole Miss women's history. I think they were like 2 games behind LSU, which is insane. LSU's defending national champions. And if you're not watching women's basketball as a whole, much less Ole Miss women's basketball, if you're an Ole Miss fan, then you're missing out. Players like Caitlin Clark, Juju Smith, Paige Buckers, Cameron Brink, Angel Reese, they're changing the game. People like Coach Yo's changing the game. People like Don Staley's changing the game. They've been changing the game. And if you're not watching college women's basketball, you're missing out. And that's really all I want to say about that.
I love that, man. Seriously.
Before we move into some college football, I just want to take a second. Shout out these sponsors at the bottom of the screen here. Obviously, there's more on the Rebel Walk website. You can go click and see there. But Rebel Closet, Dress for Less, and Dead Soxy, you can find those sponsors on the Ole Miss website. Just click on the website, go to sponsors. You'll see all the sponsors we have listed. Hopping into some spring football, a lot of people really this offseason has been excited about football because the potential behind this Ole Miss team. Grove Bowl's April 13th. They start. Media is able to go to see the practices next week. They've been practicing for a little bit now. But I want to talk more about just kind of what the spring's going to look like in the coming weeks, Zach.
Yeah. So we're obviously, you said it, practices are going to start to ramp up here leading up to the Grove Bowl, which, you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. Guys aren't going to be pushing themselves like they would, obviously, on a normal game day in the fall. I'm excited to see, you have the number 1 transfer portal class, just to see them in action, to see them wearing red and blue. It's going to be incredible. And additionally, there's also some things you have to look out for. One of those things for me is the running back room. Logan Diggs is rumored to, I don't know if he can fully tore it, but I did see that he was apparently tearing his ACL in that bowl game against Wisconsin when he was still with LSU. So what's the word on him? Are we going to see him is he at practices watching? Is he rehabbing? What type of stuff's going on? Kedrick Riscano, his body is fantastic. He looks physical. He looks fast. He was one of the best high school players in the 2023 class coming out of Texas. He was training with Zach Evans a couple days ago, according to his Instagram story, which I think is awesome. What type of role is he going to take? And then obviously Bentley. Bentley struggled to maintain his health here and there throughout his Ole Miss career. We saw that when he transferred here with Zach Evans in that year. We saw it a little bit this year. But, right now he's running back 1. So what type of step does he take? He has every tool in the book. He's shifty. He's fast. He has explosive speed. He's beautiful for those breakaway runs. Again, just think about that LSU game. It was awesome. Absolutely. So I love that. And then another thing I'm kind of interested to look out for, a little under the radar here, is Daquan Wright, the Virginia Tech transfer tight end. What type of role does he take? I think he's going to kind of try and replace Michael Trigg. He's versatile. He weighs a little less here than Prescorn. He's a little smaller, but again, he has every trait to become, whether that's a wide receiver or a tight end, an extremely talented player. He can block, he can catch, and with Joe Cox, now he's teaching that room. What type of step do they take as a whole, Cam?
Yeah, absolutely. And going back, running back room, I guess that's probably what I'm most excited about to see on offense. You kind of know Jackson Dart's going to be the quarterback. It's going to be interesting to see who the backup quarterback is going to be between 100%. Austin Simmons and Walker Howard, especially with Simmons being as good as he is at baseball right now. In the receiver room, just let the guys play. They're sick. They're nasty. Just let them play. And then obviously the tight end room, really good too. Hudson Wolf, another name to throw in there. Yeah. He's gonna. I mean, if he can play this year and stay healthy, he's a big guy, almost really as big as Prescorn. Dylan Hip came in, pretty big guy too. But really that running back room is what I'm really excited to kind of see how that shakes up. Obviously Bentley's probably running back one. And then Logan Diggs is your bruiser back if he can play. Right. Obviously the injury, which is kind of, I guess you have to take it with a grain of salt, but you see Diggs posting on his Instagram and Twitter and stuff hinting at playing in the fall. And that's a good sign, but obviously take that with a grain of salt. He's the player. Obviously he wants to play. So you have to take that with very small. But really what I'm most excited to see about this spring is how this defense is going to shape out, man, because this is a loaded defensive line, a loaded DB room. And you got two traditional middle linebackers in Kari Coleman and Chris Paul Jr. And I'm really excited to see about it. I've been big on him all offseason since we got him. I'm really excited to see what Yam Banks is going to bring to the table. He's 6'2", 215 pound, 220 pound safety who's probably going to play that Dejon Anthony role. And we'll see who else prevails in that DB room because there's a lot of new faces in there. But Yam Banks, I believe he's just going to be a day one starter. And he just brings so much experience along with Key Lawrence. Key Lawrence brings a lot of experience too. Yeah. But between those two guys, the experience in that DB room, obviously, with Trey Washington coming back, John Sanders Jr. coming back, Chris Graves is going to be a lockdown corner. Trey Amos probably going to be another lockdown corner. And I'm really just excited to see how that defense is going to shape out. Really, I'm excited about Cam Franklin, seeing pictures of him practicing. He looks huge. He looks like he fits in on an SEC defensive line. And I think a lot of people are forgetting about Xavier Harris.
Correct.
Xavier Harris is a monster. Obviously, Walter Nolan is going to be probably the starting defensive tackle, probably alongside with J.J. Pegues there in the middle. But Xavier Harris is going to be Xavier Harris. He's going to probably block a couple more field goals this year. He's going to make quarterbacks terrified when they see a 6'7", 300-pound monster standing across from him. And then obviously he's going to give Walter Nolan, J.J. Pegues breaks. And that's just when you have a guy that big and that talented, able to give Walter Nolan a break, that's just insane.
Exactly. You really can't beat that. The rotations are going to be ridiculous. T.J. Dudley, he looked so physical against Penn State. He was lined up on the edge a lot, and I loved it, man. He's usually seen as a linebacker, but Golding, I think he did that a little bit with Perkins too, who might need to put on some more weight if he wants to keep doing that. But I mean, the speed between Dudley and Perkins potentially coming off the edge is unbelievable. Prince Mullin, I mean, they were showing pictures of him. Guy looks like he could play in the NFL today. Yeah. He's an absolute force. Jared Ivey, we all know Jared very well. He's a great player, even better person. He gets after quarterbacks, linebackers, Chris Paul, Kari Coleman. This room is this defense as a whole is unbelievable. What Pete Golding has put together is so impressive. And now you have Zach Arnett, a former head coach. He will be analyzing for your defense. Let's put that in perspective, man.
And I believe I seen something on Twitter maybe yesterday or day before yesterday. Someone said something. I can't think of who it was off the top of my head, but someone said something about this Ole Miss team not only having premier talent and bringing in all this talent, but they have a top coaching staff as well. This coaching staff is insane. And I mean, obviously with the addition of Brian Brown at the DB spot, co-defensive coordinator, and then obviously Pete Golding's going to be the defensive guru that he is. That defense is going to be a well-coached defense. And then, I mean, Lane Kiffin offense. That's all you have to say about that. Lane Kiffin
Right.
offense.
No, and when you look at the staff, I mean, this is definitely a stretch, so I don't want to get hate for this, Ole Miss fans, but it reminds me of, when you look at that graphic of the Nick Saban staff that had Kirby at DC, Lane at OC, all these different guys in all these random positions, it feels like that's what's happening. You know what I mean, Cam? I mean,
Yeah,
Charlie Weiss Jr. is an OC. I'm sure at some
young
point
guy.
he'll be a head coach. I'm sure Pete Golding will be a head coach at some point. Zach Arnett was a head coach. Brian Brown was a defensive coordinator. Joe Cox is a young, brilliant offensive mind coming from Alabama. George McDonald, amazing receivers coach. Like, all the pieces are there for this team to just absolutely put on a show this fall, Cam.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, that's all we got on football, guys. Obviously, keep an eye out for spring updates coming up. Top-ranked Ole Miss team coming into next season. We'll have to see how this SEC play shapes out. Bama, I'm kind of seeing Bama lose a little bit of traction here with all these saving comments about
Yeah,
NIL monies and the players
strange.
and stuff. So it's kind of strange to see maybe not the same Bama team that we've seen in the past.
Right.
So hopping into baseball, the Rebs are hot, like I said in the beginning, Zach. I think it's like 11 out of the last 12 games they've
Yeah.
won. They dropped the one to Iowa that weekend on Friday. But really, ever since that Saturday game, after they beat Iowa, they kind of just want to run here as of late, and then hopping into SEC play this weekend against South Carolina. Just kind of recap what you kind of liked about this team so far, Zach.
Yeah. You said it, 11 out of the last 12 is ridiculous. It's fantastic. They have all the momentum they need. But at the same time, we're heading into SEC play. This is where, you either make it or you don't. And we saw that last year. If you're a fraudulent team, you're exposed. And unfortunately, that's what happened. So, you got Gunnar Dennis, Liam Doyle, and Grayson Saunier. What type of performances are you going to get from them this weekend? Liam Doyle last weekend was incredible. The Doug Nikhazy comparisons were awesome. I really enjoyed seeing those. But
Yeah.
no, it's true. I mean, obviously on a much smaller scale, but that breaking ball with dominant is a huge, huge change in speeds between an 80-mile-an-hour breaker and a 92, 93-mile-an-hour fastball coming from the left side, which is impressive. And then Gunnar Dennis, put the ball on the ground. Do not let South Carolina elevate the ball. You do not want this to become a home run show on Friday night. That's not how you want to start the series. And as for Grayson, keep doing what you're doing, Grayson. He's absolutely dominating on the mound. These past 2 weekends, we've seen it, Iowa and Morehead State. And that's all you need from your Sunday guys. So, you obviously it'd be awesome for the sweep, but you really would love to win 2 here to start SEC play, Cam.
Absolutely. Pitching's been amazing. Just the bullpen as a whole been amazing. Braden Jones is lights out right now. I
Yeah.
don't even think there's a hotter reliever in the country right now than Braden
Agreed.
Jones. It seems like he gets up there and he has a different type of confidence when he steps on the
Yeah.
mound, no matter who he's playing. When he played ULM the other night, it's a different type of confidence when the guy steps up on the mound. And obviously, the weekend rotation. You see Maddox go 6 innings last night against ULM. I don't think we've seen a weekend guy go 6 innings. We've seen a couple guys go 5.
Right.
So obviously, you're probably going to have to get some more longevity as the season goes on out of some of these starters. But really, you're hoping that you can at least get 5 out of every starter you got. Gunnar Dennis, like you said, put the ball on the ground. He's going to pound the strike zone. This is a South Carolina team I think that was maybe top in the SEC if they did not lead the SEC in home runs last year.
Right.
They were a mashing team. And right now, I think they're tied, if not in second place behind Ole Miss in walks drawn this year. So this is a team that's going to be patient at the plate too.
Absolutely.
And that's something that Ole Miss struggled with last year, walking batters. And you haven't really seen too much of it this year. Grayson Saunier has looked really good, really in control, a lot better than he was last year. And then obviously Liam Doyle, like you said, the Nikhazy comparisons was really cool. And that's the first thing I really thought of when I seen that really looping 12-6 curveball, and he just drops it in there first strike. And then obviously the bullpen outside of Braden Jones has looked really good as well. Josh Mallets has looked great. Austin Simmons, freshman, looks great.
Mm-hmm.
Wes Mendez, freshman, he looks great out the pen. Mitch Moreth, he's looked good out the pen.
Yeah.
And then Connor Spencer comes in and closes the door most of the time, other than maybe on occasion here or there. But if this pitching staff can continue what they're doing now and then keep improving, these bats are going to speak for themselves. Obviously, Ethan Lejay, until yesterday, I think he went over 4, over 5. Tough day for him, but he was batting 400, I think, going into that game.
Damn.
Jackson Ross, Sergeant Ross, he's a pro hitter. He's I think he has like 5 home runs on the year, like 20-something RBIs. He's, like I said, pro hitter. He's gonna keep bringing that experience, and I like how Bianca talks about him, about being not really just the verbal leader, but guy who leads by example.
Yeah.
And then obviously Andrew Fisher, Ethan Groff, Trayson Hughes. Andrew Fisher is going to be outstanding. People forget this guy's a sophomore. This guy's 20 years old.
Unbelievable.
And he's doing what he's doing right now. He has insane power. He has an insane glove. And I'm really excited to see what Fisher's going to do the rest of this year. And if he decides to come back for another year at Ole Miss, see what he does that next year. And then Trayson Hughes, he's kind of just came on lately. And last night, obviously, if you didn't get a chance to see that, go watch it. He makes a diving catch down the right field line and just hoses a guy out at third base. And I was there watching it live, so I kind of I remember just looking at the base runner after he started taking off, and I was just like, why are you doing that, man? A lot of people, I think Trayson said it after the game, a lot of people are going to know not to run on that guy anymore just because he's got an MLB arm, and the bat's starting to come for him.
Absolutely. And this is a guy who hit 400 at Mercer last year. I know it's not SEC baseball, but it's baseball. If you can hit, you can hit. And, I recommend everyone who's able to catch a series, whether it's South Carolina or a different home series, just watch Trayson Hughes in warmups. Yeah, he has an absolute rocket for an arm, and it's pretty fun to see. They were talking about a post-game, Cam. You were there, but like the amount of outs he's made just from that it's like unbelievable. And moving forward, that's a huge asset. Bottom of the ninth, runner on second, single in the right field. It's a huge decision that could potentially save the game or save your season heading into the later months. So I love having Trayson out and right.
Yeah, we've seen that a lot this year, just being at Swayze of Trayson trying to throw a guy out at first base when he's single to right field. He's got a cannon. He's going to keep showing that, and there's no such thing as a cutoff man when you're Trayson Hughes, and he's not good. Don't even bother if you're the cutoff man. He's going all the way. I think he's batting like 260 right now. Had a rough start. He was batting under 100 to start the year for a little bit there. I'm really just how he's coming along with that bat. Luke Hill, another guy who's kind of starting to come along a little slowly. He's outstanding in the field. Luke Hill, I know a lot of things happened when he first got here, season first started. But really, he's just an outstanding defender. Really, I don't know if I've seen really much better shortstops with the glove at Ole Miss. Obviously, there's been a lot of great shortstops, like Gray Kessinger, Jacob Gonzalez, Earl Robinson, but Luke Hill has a really nice glove, and he has a cannon for an arm. I don't think you shouldn't doubt if this is a slow dribbler into the 6 hole, Luke Hill can probably make the post.
It doesn't matter.
And I think he's batting like 190 after, I think he had like one or two hits yesterday. And I think he had one of those hits late in the game there that kind of like sparked that rally there too. And I mean, has a chance to get his batting average above 200, keep working towards getting that bat rolling in the SEC play. And I mean, an Ole Miss team that's kind of hot right now, there's no better chance than to keep it going when you're playing this weekend against South Carolina, who was ranked to open the season. I'm not sure they are now, but they were ranked to open the season. I think they dropped that series to Clemson. They kind of took them off that. But this is a team that's getting hot right now. And last time one of these teams got hot, we all know what happened.
That's a beautiful way to put it, Cam. Final thing here towards heading into the weekend, I think what could easily make or break the game is the bottom of the lineup. You discussed some guys, Luke Hill, Trayson Hughes, Campbell Smithwig, or Eli Burch, catching, Fern. These guys they're going to decide how does this offense want to compete this weekend, and pair that with the pitching and the bullpen. There's no reason Ole Miss can't walk out from Swayze on Sunday with a series win.
Absolutely. And Braden Randall, shout out to him. He's probably going to be in the 9-hole all weekend. Me and Zach love watching that kid play. He's an outstanding player, really gritty player. Really just a gritty team this year all around. And I love what I'm seeing. And hopefully, as the year goes on, this team can stay hot consistently. I believe they play South Carolina at 6 on Friday or 6:30.
Yeah.
They play at 1 on Saturday, 1:30 on Sunday. So I
Perfect.
think there's a chance to rain on Friday. So at
Yeah,
that, you
that's
have to
right.
watch out there if you're traveling to that game. But obviously, if you can, come pack out Swayze. I'll be there. I know Zach will probably be there in the stands with some family, and it's going to be a fun weekend. That's all we really got for baseball, and that's all we got for this podcast, guys. You got anything else, Zach?
I'm all good, man. Thanks, Cam.
So thank you guys for listening. As always, tune into therebelwalk.com for all your Ole Miss sports needs.